Have you noticed something kind of weird happening on car lots lately? Just a little while ago, you couldn't find a new car anywhere. There were ghost towns. Now, all of a sudden, they are absolutely overflowing. Well, this isn't just some simple market correction. No, the whole foundation of the car industry is shifting right under our feet. And in this explainer, we're going to dig into exactly why.
So let's start with a big, obvious question that you've probably seen for yourself. Why are new car dealerships, which were practically empty just a couple of years back, now totally packed with unsold vehicles? This is the central mystery we're going to solve today.
And here's the one number that really tells the story: 75 days. That's the current average day supply. What does that mean? Well, basically, if every car factory shut down today, it would still take a full 75 days to sell all the new cars sitting on dealer lots. Now, to give you some context, a healthy, normal market is usually around 60 days. So yeah, that jump is a huge red flag. It tells us that cars are piling up way faster than people are buying them.
Okay, so what's the most direct cause? This brings us to our first big clue: a market slowdown. This is just classic supply and demand, really. After a few years of really frantic post-pandemic buying, the entire auto market is just, well, it's hitting the brakes.
And listen, this isn't just affecting some niche, unpopular models. We're talking about the undisputed king of the road, the Ford F-Series pickup. It's been America's best-selling vehicle for decades, and even it is seeing a noticeable slowdown in sales. You know, when a giant like that starts to feel the pinch, you know something big is happening across the entire market.
But here's where it gets really interesting. This slowdown isn't hitting everything equally. It's created what you could call a tale of two markets. On one hand, you have the full-size trucks. Demand is slowing, but the automakers are really holding the line on prices. They're protecting their most profitable products, so sorry, not a lot of deals there. But on the other hand, you've got mid-sized sedans. Inventories for super reliable cars like the Toyota Camry and Nissan Altima are really high, and that is creating a major opportunity for anyone who's a savvy buyer.
Now, this isn't just about what people are choosing to buy. There's this massive force working behind the scenes that's shaping what car companies can even build in the first place. And that's this huge political tug-of-war over government emissions regulations.
And this really boils down to two completely different ways of thinking. The free market view says, hey, let the customers decide. Consumer choice should drive the market, not government rules. But the regulatory view argues that you need strict standards to push car companies to innovate and to protect the environment. And with serious talk about maybe revoking the current standards, you can imagine the kind of uncertainty this creates for every single car manufacturer trying to plan for the future.
And all this fighting over regulations is leading to a really fascinating and frankly, a very surprising twist in this whole story. We're talking about a potential comeback for engines that a lot of people thought were basically on their way out for good.
Which leads us to this kind of wild question. Could the V8 engine and maybe even diesel engines actually make a comeback? I mean, with the huge push for electric cars, that sounds impossible, right? But as this debate over regulations gets hotter, these old-school engines are suddenly part of the conversation again.
To get why this is happening, you kind of have to know the difference here. Government regulations really pushed car makers to use smaller, more complex turbocharged engines to meet fuel efficiency targets. But a lot of drivers, well, they miss that smooth power and the reliability you get from simpler, bigger, naturally aspirated V6s and V8s. So if those regulations get loosened, automakers might just be tempted to give the people what they really want.
But, you know, while everyone is busy arguing about gas versus electric, there's a quiet winner emerging from the sidelines. Just look at this chart. Hybrid vehicles are seeing strong, steady growth. And it makes sense, right? For a lot of buyers, they hit that perfect sweet spot. You get better fuel economy, but without the high price tag or the range anxiety of a fully electric vehicle.
And that brings us to the most talked about, most hyped up part of the entire car market, electric vehicles. For years, we've been told the electric future is a sure thing. But the data? The data is now telling a very different and honestly, a pretty shocking story. Think about it. For years, the assumption has been that EV growth is a straight line, heading right for the moon. The future is electric. End of story, right? Well, it turns out the data is telling us a major plot twist has just kicked off.
For the first time in a decade, quarterly EV registrations in the US didn't just slow down, they went backward. This isn't just slower growth, it's a reversal, an actual decline. That is a massive turning point in the whole EV story that almost nobody saw coming.
So what's going on here? What's causing this sudden stall? Well, it's a few key things.
That initial rush of demand, which you could argue was pumped up by federal tax credits, is starting to fade. Tesla is still the big leader, but now it's leading a market that's actually getting smaller. And for your average buyer, the big problems haven't gone away. High prices and range anxiety are still very, very real hurdles.
So the big takeaway here, the one that changes everything, is this. For the first time in a decade, the EV market isn't just slowing down, it is shrinking. And what that means for the future of the entire auto industry is now the biggest question of all.